Hello, wonderful community, and welcome to today's episode. We have a really divine, magic, mystic, cosmic special guest with us today. Trudi is here from Wild Samsara, and we're talking today all about the life of a womb witch. And I'm going to introduce Trudi. She's a fellow Cornish goddess, and I'm very excited to bring her into the space. Trudi is a womb healer and priestess rooted in the windy wilds of Cornwall. Trudi is a cyclical witch who devotes her life and offerings to living in deep harmony with the cycles of nature. Trudi is fascinated by the weaving of our ancestors' practices into a modern landscape of cosmic consciousness and biomancy. First and foremost, she works with the magical portal of the womb space to not only heal and awaken our creative life force, but to also use the alchemy of our bodies for connecting to the earth and sky and unlocking what we are really here to do. But our sacred cycles are more than just the feminine cycles of menstruation and our initiation from maiden to crone. We are a direct hologram of the cycles of earth. Oh my goddess, these are Trudy's words, by the way, not mine. Stole them from your Instagram. Welcome, sacred woman. Is there anything you'd like to add to that mystical introduction that you wrote? Oh, bear with me.
I can't even I can't even remember writing all of that. That is pretty epic stuff.
You
I
are
mean,
epic.
I mean that introduction just proves that's like the vibe that I go for, just deep into the cosmic womby shit straight in there. There's no messing around. So I don't know if I can add anything to that. Maybe I can scale it back a bit. I don't know. But no, that is me.
Amazing. Oh, thank you, gorgeous. Thanks for letting me read your amazing words. And so I met you years ago. And I believe the first time I met you is when I came to you for a womb massage, a healing womb massage. And what an incredible practice, because at the time I was unraveling my kind of first experiences with endometriosis. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But my womb was in so much pain, and I was on this holistic healing journey. And you really helped me on my way to reducing my pain so much in the most holistic way, with steaming, with all the things you talk about, and the holistic womb care that I can't wait to bring into today's episode. And then you've also been to a few of my offerings. You've come to the couples temple that I run, the in-person
Yeah.
couples intimacy event. And I'm sure you've also come to a sensual yoga before and joined me
Yeah.
for a sexy evening of cacao and movement. So it's just
The
like,
dream.
yeah, right. The dream that we get to live in this rainy spot in England, but also do all of this magic, cosmic.
I know. We're living in like this perfect little portal of woomy sexiness, and most people don't even know what's happening, the witches that are hidden in this tiny bit
Oh,
of Cornwall.
yes.
It's amazing. It's amazing to have so much alchemy and to be open in what we do as well, actually, because I always
Mm.
forget, some of the practices that we do, and especially the amazing stuff you do for so many generations, that's been so shamed and underground, and that we can actually advertise this on Facebook and be like, this is what we're doing, and really open, and even if people are kind of not coming to all of it, their eyes are opening. So yeah, it's incredible.
Yes, thank you so much for bringing that. We are so privileged. Like the fact that we can have this conversation, the fact that we can run the offerings we run, that we can get women together, that we can talk about our blood, our pussy, our sex, our juices, all of the wonderful things that come in our anatomy, and actually reclaim our education about our body, which is something I want to bring to everyone listening today, because there's so many cultures out there today where this wisdom is still being heavily silenced. So I think it's going to be such an important episode to bring to the listeners.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also for the women, I really honor the women that come to our offerings and experience them, but it's the women that are watching and that are listening on the sidelines. And I have so many people over the last decade that have been like, I've been following you for ages and wanting to do this and I've been too afraid. And it's just amazing when just something you say or something that you offer just switches it, and they say, I'm going for it, I'm gonna give this a go. And realizing just how actually normal our practices are, and what we're doing isn't anything kind of crazy. This is actually like reclaiming what we've just done for generations and generations. So yeah, it's exciting to see them coming out of the caves as well.
Mm. Yes. Oh, and there are so many women here in Cornwall. If no one knows what we're talking about, Trudy and I live in like the very, 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 very bottom of the UK, like as far down as you can get, as far down as you can go. We live there, and it is the most amazing place. So I'm from here. My family line go back over 200 years in Cornwall. So I'm super
Wow.
deeply rooted in Cornish kind of lands in some ways, and in others I'm like traveling quite a lot and getting out quite a lot. But every time I come back, the women and the humans here are showing the fuck up for their soul work. Like
Yeah.
people are showing the fuck up, and people meet me and they must be like, oh, it must be really hard to find like people to work with where you're from. And I'm like, oh no, everyone is fucking remembering their body, their
Yes.
power. Like a lot of the listeners will be from Cornwall as well, you know. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just such an honor to live here and to be a part of the service that we get to give, and that you have been giving for so long as well to this
Totally.
community.
I really like, the best way I can describe the space holders in Cornwall are feral priestesses. It's like we are wild and muddy and stamping our feet. We've got like, the fire burning within us, but we're also like, just so graceful and so connected to the Selkies and the oceans. And it's like, yeah, we're the best, basically.
Yeah, we are the best,
We're the
actually. We are.
best.
The perfect mixture of mermaid, pirate, and witch weaved into one graceful priestess
Exactly.
embodiment.
Exactly. And so full of love for one another as well, which is really
Mm.
important. We've really worked through those sister wounds, and yeah, there's so much love and adoration for one another, which is so important to feeling like you can really step into your power as a space holder and as a woman, because you know that no one's looking at you from afar and judging you. There's just so much love. You can feel that energy in the land. So yeah,
Mm.
beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, everyone is now preparing to move to Cornwall that's listening.
Yeah.
This is a great spot. So, before we start the conversation, I also just want to acknowledge those listening that might not have a physical womb anymore, whether you've had a medical procedure, whether you're changing and transitioning your gender identity. I just want to acknowledge all of those and invite you into the conversation and say this conversation is still so valid for you, but maybe you start to look at another portal of your body and apply it to that. Or Trudy, if you've got any advice for those listening that don't have a physical womb space, what would you recommend that they do to connect to this conversation?
Oh my gosh, so much. Yeah. In fact, whenever I'm talking about the womb, I'm absolutely not talking about the uterus, the ovaries. I'm always talking about that big portal of energy.
Mm.
Um, and in fact, those that don't have a physical womb, whether they weren't born with one or whether it's been removed, um, sometimes those beings really feel a bigger connection to the power of the energy. It's a bit like when you do distance healing, and there's no physical limitations then, and it's actually, you really feel the pulse and the energy, and realize that, oh my gosh, it's not, we're so much more than just that physical organ. So yeah, there's so much you can do, especially, which I'm sure we'll talk about a lot more, is the lunar connection, because we are so much water. We are literally moving with those ebbs and flows, and so much of our seasonal inner cycles are beyond the womb. It's actually the waters of our very cells. So yeah, you can absolutely still tune into that energy.
Mm. Thank
Mm.
you so much. Okay, so I wanted to ask you how you got into the role of womb witch. What led you on this mystical pathway? Because most of us aren't born remembering this wisdom. So I'd love to know a little bit about your story. What led you to this work? How did you end up being a womb witch and a priestess and
Yeah.
an amazing healer?
Yeah, what school did I go to for that craziness? Interesting question, because I kind of need to ask myself this every now and then. Why am I a womb witch? How did I get there? Um, I mean, really honestly, my journey is so similar to so many women that I work with already, and it's a story and a memory of disconnection. It really started with disconnection and of pain and of, dare I say, medical gaslighting, and just feeling
Mm,
like I am not seen and being heard as a woman, and I'm actually being shut down in what I'm feeling to be true in my body. And so from the age of 11, when I first started my bleeds, just experiencing these incredibly heavy, painful, like emotional turmoil, and just this sense that I felt alien and unsafe in my body, and I just hated my bleed, and I felt really uncomfortable as a girl and not knowing how to be. And so my journey really started from that initiation as a woman. And for a good 15 years, I spent a lot of time kind of suppressing that, and being in and out of hospital, having so much
mm,
um, kind of, I guess it wasn't even just about my bleed. The focus now is obviously understanding my menstrual cycle, and that journey as being an initiation in itself. But actually, it was when I look back at the younger me, realizing that I just was completely detached from my femininity. And when I look, I mean, well, long story short, when I initiated and trained to be a holistic therapist, instantly I knew that the first thing I wanted to heal and support in myself was my bleed, because I knew it was the missing piece. Knowing that there was a
mm,
whole side of me that just felt completely broken. And I guess that's a story we all can resonate with, is our journey to who we are and our magic and our power is often rooted in the bits of us that felt broken, that we felt we needed to fix. And I felt less of a woman, I felt less of a human for that broken part of me. And it's like, I want to fix it. And I came from a really masculine point of view. How can I fix my bleed? How can I fix my womb? How can I make me better? How can I make me healthier? And so it was a real masculine point of view. And what happened was a massive breadcrumb, like a kind of like wormhole of all these first kind of very kind of straight mainstream ways of healing the womb, but they weren't working. There was this like, here's the model, here's how we fix you as a woman, this is what we understand as a woman. And none of it worked for me. None of it was, I don't want a coil, I don't want a hysterectomy at 29. I don't want all these kind of really barbaric ways of treating a female body. And that took me down the wormhole of what might seem on the surface as really kind of woo and, out there. But these are the practices that actually have been passed on for generations and generations and generations. And those were the things that held the massive magic. The pill didn't fix me, yoni steaming did. An implant wasn't going to help my hormones, but yoni bathing under the moon did. So and so that's kind of where I kind of took my journey. So all of that kind of witchiness and the kind of the practices that felt so ancient, that they were already kind of in my blood, those were the things that really took me on a personal journey. So as I progressed as a holistic therapist, there was no doubt in my mind that I needed to pass this on to all women. All women needed this. So I mean, that's like the short story, but there's so much more I could say on that.
mm.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing this. And I feel so seen, because the gaslighting from the medical industry, I mean, I'm sure most women listening to this episode can resonate to going to the doctors for something and trying to be prescribed the hormonal contraceptive pill. And the amount of times I've had to turn down that because it's not the solution I'm looking for. It's not fixing the root cause. And I know that I also have a lot of clients that the contraceptive pill has been extremely helpful for them in many ways. And I'm not shaming that. However, especially with conditions of the womb, I actually got kicked out of the doctor's office last time I went to the doctor's, which was many years ago, for my womb. And it was because I felt so unseen and so uncared for, and I was in debilitating pain, you know, similar to what you were saying, really heavy periods, really hard, painful periods, passing out, all sorts of things. I've had like the most excruciating pain where you kind of go into that state of like hallucination and you feel like you're going a bit crazy because your body's in shock because it can't handle the
Yeah.
pain.
Yeah.
And they're still telling me, oh, it's just your period. It's
Yeah.
fine. And it's like, I'm sorry, but there's something not okay. And I lost it at, because they were so uncompassionate. They had zero compassion. And I'd been waiting for the appointment. It was an ultrasound appointment. I'd been waiting for 8 months for this ultrasound appointment to finally check how things were. And they just did, it was a male doctor actually. He did a really, nothing against men, don't want to stereotype against men here, but it didn't help because he couldn't relate to my body parts.
Yeah.
So he put on the gel, he did a quick scan, and a few months earlier they'd found, you know, a lot of signs of endometriosis in my womb, in my ovaries. There was cysts, there was internal bleeding. They could see the dark patches that kind of resonated with endometriosis, although you can't really diagnose it from the outside, but they were looking and saying it's likely. And then he did the scan and just went, yeah, everything's fine, off you go. And I was heartbroken. I was like, nothing is fine. I'm in so much pain. I can barely walk. Like, this isn't
Yeah.
okay. And I
Yeah.
lost it and I ended up screaming. And I was like, you don't care about the womb. No one's studying the womb. You don't
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
You're abandoning women in this condition. And it's the like 10th most painful disease in the world. And women are just having to suffer with
Oh,
that
well
pain.
done.
And
Yeah,
I was
somebody needs to
like,
say this. We need to
yeah,
say this
I
more.
mean, I can't say that it made much difference, just me, but if every woman started to stand up, maybe not in the way I did, where you get thrown out the doctor's office, but what
Well,
can
do
we
you
do?
know, it's funny because I often joke that the one thing that I can't do as a womb therapist is I can't look inside. So if I could just if everyone can just fundraise for me to get an ultrasound in my year, that would be brilliant. That's the one thing I can't do. So I'll often systematically go to my doctor and I'll say, you know, I'm not interested in what you've got for treatment. I've got my own treatment that I trust way more than what you could give me, but I need you to just do an ultrasound. I need to keep a check on what's going on. And I had an ultrasound like maybe 6 months ago, and it was two female practitioners there, and we were just chatting away, and I was asking lots of questions, and they would say something, and I'd say, "Well, that's not technically true," you know, and I was correcting them about the womb,
Nice.
and they were like, you know, okay, you know, how do you know so much? And I said, oh, I'm a womb therapist, I'm a womb witch, I'm shamanically with the womb, but I also work really physically with the womb. I've trained, you know, in many modalities. And they were like, oh, I didn't know womb massage was a thing. Now, this is
Wow.
gynecologists and practitioners working with women, investigating womb dis-ease and pathologies, and they don't know that you can have a womb massage. I mean, that's just like blows my mind. And there was so much that I was telling them about the womb that they just didn't know. And so that just proves that, and we're obviously digressing a lot because I could rant about this for years, but it just proves that what they're being trained in is just so basic. It's so basic and uninformed. And actually, the medical model is mostly based on the male body, as is
Yes.
things like even Reiki and a lot of energetic practices. A lot of the modalities are all based on the male body, and it's just blows my mind that I've had to do so much of my own study, my own research. I've had to look beyond just even the books that are published to really find papers and any kind of study I can find about the womb, and there's just so little. It's just
Mm.
infuriating. But like you say, we're reclaiming that, and we're actually, this is why we kind of go back in time a little bit. It's not because it's just like, oh, these are like romantic, archaic ways of working with the womb. Our ancestors knew their shit, you know, closing the bones, yoni steams, you know, yoni bathing, like all this stuff. There is a science behind it. We're just not publishing the science on it, you know? So yeah. It's
Yes.
important. And that's, I guess, kind of going back to that concept of womb witch. It's not like, I mean, yes, I am just hiding out in the woods talking to moths and just being creepy and kind of weird. But also, you know, I'm actually going back to the older science, the science that isn't about progression in that masculine way of like just making things better, but actually in the divinity of what is, and the lunar cycles, the oceans, the changing of the seasons. That's the most important science of all. And when we really understand that alchemy with our body, there is no healing to be done, because we just are, you know, we are in that state of
Mm.
being, which is that's a big one for me.
Thank you so
Mm,
much for saying that. I got like goosebumps when you said the real science is like the oceans and the earth. And it's so true. And I mean, yeah, even our medication, even when they give us the pill, it's not necessarily even based on a woman's body, because female hormones change every single day of their cycle. They get this different cocktail. So the medical system kind of stopped doing the research into what do women need, and they based it on the circadian rhythm, which is the same all the time of how a man's body works. So unfortunately, a lot of the things that we are prescribed, whether that's advice or medication, just doesn't work for our bodies. And if anyone wants to
very
hear more
true.
about this, I do have an episode about with Amy Simpson, another guest episode about the medical system. And she was a midwife, and then she turned holistic fertility therapist. And we talk all about the medical system and why it's not always helpful, and why it also is, but how to actually approach it more holistically. So thank you. I think we really need to speak up at the doctors, and thank you for being one of those women that do that and educate the system on the fucking lunar cycles as well, and how to work with us in that way.
Hell yes. Hell yes.
Mm. So why must the feminine return to working with this part of their body? If someone's listening and they're like, okay, well, I'm into my pussy, I want great sex and all of this, but I haven't actually acknowledged my womb yet. Apart from if I want to have a baby, like why would I work with my uterus? Why would I connect with my womb? Why must we return to this portal?
Mm. Good question. Ah, again, there could be a whole podcast on that as well. I mean, the interesting thing, the word feminine as well, like my first instinct is it's about bringing balance into the polarities, because, you know, though I'm very womb and women and feminine focused, it's about always bringing the masculine and feminine, and exactly the same with your work, you know. It's the unity and the power and the pleasure and the creativity that happens when the two merge, those two energies merge. And that's not just external, that's not like a man and a woman, or a woman and a woman, a man and a man. It's actually within. It's the kind of bringing that beautiful balance in. And the reason we need the feminine is because it's been so suppressed, because it's so suppressed that our view of what the feminine is skewed, and what
Mm,
we've inherited culturally is so skewed, that the true feminine, which is actually fucking chaotic and madness and beautiful and messy and all of that, we've kind of like cherry picked the bits we like about the feminine. And actually, if we can just let some of that like messiness out, oh my God, that's when the kind of pure joy and pleasure, and I truly believe that's when we can get a bit more of a healing resonance across the whole of the universe, not just within ourselves. So it's, you know, for a long, long time, my view of the feminine and the rising and the healing of the feminine was very much a self-focused. And that's really important for us to have our self-healing, to have our pleasure, to have our creativity. But actually, we're in a time where everything's a bit out of whack, you know, on the earth, in the universe. And so we need, yeah, we need that kind of the softness and the nurturing, and the kind of the, like we talked about, you know, that kind of encouraging, loving, unconditional energy that the feminine can bring. And the masculine needs that too, you know. The masculine needs that softness. But actually, we also need the chaos. We need things to just, you know, fray around the edges a bit, you know, because we're holding on so tight. And I think you and I can both resonate with that sense that when you've experienced trauma, you've experienced constriction, through fear, through anger, through suppression, whether internally and personally or just in our culture, we tend to fear the unknown, we fear the void. And working with the womb for me isn't just a physical womb. We're not just talking about your bleed. We're not just talking about fertility, which is what we tend to think about. We're not just talking about having a healthy bleed and, you know, having healthy sex and all of those beautiful things that we can experience there. But the womb is a hologram for the whole universe. It's a reflect, the inner is the reflection of the outer. And so within the womb, I work shamanically, and there's 8 gateways of the womb. And each gateway is an element, is a spirit, is this whole kind of I don't know, it's like a palette of a million colors, just like the cosmos. And so when I'm working with the womb, I'm not just going the womb. I'm working with the cervix, I'm working with the G-spot, I'm working with the labia, I'm working with the clitoris, I'm working with the left ovary, the right ovary, working with the top of the womb, I'm working with the base of the womb, and then the void in the center. Each of them have like their own kind of gateways and their own power. So yeah, it's almost like a wormhole that you can go into when you work with your womb space. You realize that you're actually kind of diving into the whole of existence. So yeah, it's pretty it's pretty mad. Does that
Oh my
answer your
goodness.
question?
Yeah, that was divine. Also, the word hologram is just like hitting me in a really good spot. I'm not sure what that's about, but I never hear that word,
Yeah,
and it's so true. As above, so below. We are a reflection and a mirror of
it is.
the
It is. There's an
cosmos.
incredible amount of sacred geometry in our reproductive organs and in our kind of our yoni and our lingam. There's so much what I would see as like cosmic coding within our womb. And because it's not a coincidence that we procreate from that space and get so much pleasure from that space, you know. And when you take the kind of trip down to manifestation through pleasure, you know, orgasmic manifestation and the magic that you can have with sex, and just pleasure, like just pure joy. And that's why pleasure is such a commodity to be sold and
Mm.
manipulated, and how we receive pleasure, because it's our magic. It's actually how we create in this world, literally. So I talk a lot with my clients, with my sisters, that we're not just creating babies from this space. Oh my God, there's so much, you know, my yurt. I didn't literally birth the yurt, but it practically came from my womb. And so we're kind of, you know, tapping into the true magic that could be created when we're really sovereign in that space, and we're really madly in love with that space, and we really understand what we can do in that space. Then we're tapping straight through into the universe, into like all that is.
Mm.
Yeah, it's kind of like our hidden secret that we're only just starting to unearth and realize what we're capable of there.
Mm. Thank you so
Mhm.
much for speaking to that.
Mm.
Yeah. And I can testify that working with the womb has really changed. I mean, actually, that's the reason the Wild Femme and I'm doing this work. My whole journey started in a 2 month menstrual cycle empowerment course with Melissa Sanger. I've done a few episodes with Melissa Sanger for anyone that's interested. But that's where everything kind of started for me. And when I started to work with my womb and connect with her, which was a total accident, I wasn't like, oh, I want to work with my womb. I just listened to her podcast, found this teacher, and was really drawn to her work, and ended up in a womb course, of course.
Wow.
And then through that, my womb really remembered the trauma that I was holding on to. It
Yeah,
was like, oh, you haven't looked at this yet. This is still
yeah.
in here, and we remember it, and we're holding it. And that led me to pussy, yoni massage, letting go of my trauma that way, working with my womb space. Then that led me to tantra, sacred pleasure, and that led me to do the work I'm doing now. And it all started through the womb space.
Yeah.
And just understanding that I get to slow down, and when I bleed, I don't have to work in the same way. I don't have to keep pushing. I don't have to work out. I don't have to go to every social gathering. That I have a season to let myself just rest. And that doesn't make us weak. That doesn't mean, I've seen these t-shirts a lot around which says like, I can do what a man can do bleeding. So it's
Oh
like
no.
a bit like, oh, my bleed isn't a weakness, which, okay, that message is correct. Our bleed isn't a weakness, but
No.
also it's not a weakness to slow down and honor our inner cycles. And that
Exactly.
wisdom comes from the womb. It's like you said, that hologram of nature. Our
Mm,
womb is mirroring to us the autumn, the winter, the summer.
mm,
And I don't know if I really want to touch on that, actually, the feminine cycles, because it's a big part of your work and you hold
yeah.
so much wisdom on that. Without going into like a crazy breakdown today of like follicular luteal,
Yeah.
inner winter, everything. But
We don't
what
need that.
we're not going to do a lecture today, everyone, but go and find Trudy's work if you want to learn more about the seasons, because you'll be getting the magic of that. But what do you think is the magic of our seasons, and how we can reframe that from being a weakness to actually being a superpower? Because we are chaotic and we are complex and we are too complicated for the medical system to study and understand and prescribe to. But why does that make us fucking incredible as women to have these seasons and these changes?
Okay. So feeling into that, probably the biggest takeaway that I'd like people to recognize is it's all about death. Okay. It's a death and rebirth cycle continuously. And so taking away the cycles, the inner cycles and the outer cycles, all of it is on a microcosm and a macrocosm, an invitation for death and rebirth on a really visceral level. And for those of us who maybe have irregular cycles, thinking we're broken or that something's not working right, it's a different initiation into when is needed for a death and rebirth cycle. Our bleed is essentially the moment that we let go and we shed and clear space for a new. And that's exactly what happens in the seasons. Our trees are shedding their leaves, they decay, they return to the earth, and then there's an energy of reborn. And so, yeah, if we can just, there's a million things that we could do. We could do a million lectures, but that's the most important fundamental thing to recognize, is that the feminine, like Kali energy, invites a death. She governs the destruction in order to create new. And so as women, we are creatrix, but we also are governing that kind of ending and the clearing. We have to make the way for the new. And so when we recognize that everything is kind of moving in that death and rebirth cycle, and that's why all of our myths, all of the goddesses, all of the wisdom that's been passed on essentially boils down to death and rebirth, all of it, because it's the most important thing. And actually all of our existential journeys and all the meaning that we try to find is all around why are we here and why do we die and what happens when we die. And our body is doing that every single month, and the moon is essentially doing that every single month. And that's kind of the key to all of the cyclical wisdom, is can you let yourself die? Can you let yourself go? Can you let yourself surrender? Can you let all that you think you are and all that is completely disappear for that rebirth, for that new? And I don't know if you're aware of Kali Mountain. I'm a big fan of Kali Mountain's book, Descent and Rising. And it's all about the feminine initiation behind the myth of Inanna. I don't know if you know much about
Oh,
Inanna.
wow. I
And
do know a bit about
how
Anana, but not the author.
right. I really recommend that book. But anything which is the myths of how we need to die, we need to shed, we need to literally have a kind of a rock bottom moment in order to rise again. And it will happen again and again and again. And the more we get comfortable in that death, whether that's our bleed, whether that's the winter, whatever that death looks like, the quicker we'll rise and the stronger we'll be. So that would be my takeaway.
It's
Yeah.
all about death, everyone. It's all
Just
about
die.
dying.
Just die.
Just let yourself die all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so funny because when I did another guest episode with Kelsey Phillips on Kundalini activation, it was the same message, right? It's
Really?
so funny that all of these modalities, whether it's Tantra, Kundalini, womb work, everything ultimately comes down to that shedding of the
Mm.
skin and of your identity, and remembering that we are that divine hologram of the universe. There isn't a box that we can put ourselves into. I have to do this all the time with my work. I don't know if you find that, but my identity can sometimes get really wrapped up in my work and my purpose and my mission. And I'm like, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm here. And then I'm like,
Yeah.
actually, I'm just here to love and then die.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
I am basically a fucking sprinkle of charcoal floating in space.
I'm
So
just
all
vibrating light and sound,
yeah, right.
It doesn't fucking matter if the dishes are there. It doesn't matter, Yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah.
It's funny because I feel like it all boils down to us getting in our own way and going back to kind of womb pathologies, particularly. It took me nearly a best part of a decade of reading all these papers, trying to really understand what is endometriosis, for example. How does it work?
Mhm.
Why is it happening? And I train practitioners in womb Reiki, and the main thing that I start with is everything is energy, and if we are literally growing something additional in our womb, if we've got extra, dare I say, clots, growth, cysts, all of that is essentially just accumulated energy that we're not expressing, that we're not shedding. And so much of what is happening in the womb is just a reflection on what energy we are allowing to enter and exit our powerful yoni. it's
Mm.
and it's often that simple. Maybe one day I'll have a book, endometriosis, you just need to cry. It'll be something like that, because we need to cry, we need to scream, we need to scream at the doctor and have a stamp. We need to allow that, because we're carrying so much in our bodies, and we just need to process it. So yeah, it's all energy, man.
Oh my gosh. I love this. I love this perspective. This is incredible. So, can we talk maybe a little bit about your journey with endometriosis and maybe give it a little summary for anyone that doesn't know what it is, and how anyone that's also struggling with really painful periods, with trauma in their womb space, can learn to love their womb through that pain, despite that cyst, despite those long, heavy periods,
Yeah,
despite your unpredictable hormones and your acne and all the things that come. Like, how
yeah,
can we love ourselves through these really painful conditions? And yeah, can you tell us a little bit about your journey through pain?
yeah, definitely. So I'd like to preface it with saying that I personally don't ever identify with a condition. So what I've changed over the past, I used to say I've got endometriosis, and I'd say it very much like it's a state of being. I have this. And
Mm.
knowing and understanding now that our words and our identity that we attach to becomes our reality, right? So I no longer say I have anything, because I just don't. And that was really important. I think that's really important for us as women as well. When we're painted with a brush, or often we'll seek and we'll spend a lot of time to get a diagnosis for something, and then that becomes our reality. I have this, I am this. And I can absolutely say, working with women specifically with endometriosis, that it can go. It can absolutely go. And though doctors will tell you there's no cure, it's bullshit. There is. Because our body's always in a state of flux and changing. So pain is something that we're taught to just suppress, a bit like our voices. It's something that,
Mm.
we're just kind of, how can we quiet this? How can we just stop ourselves from feeling the pain? If we see pain as an ally, it's like a magnifying glass. It's like a little warning sign on something, going, hey, this is going on. Have a look at me. That's all pain is. And so I wouldn't say that we're learning to live with pain as much as learning to trust it and learning to trust our bodies and not suppress it. So that's the first thing. But yeah, for me personally, it's been a real journey into listening. I grew up in a quite a masculine family. Believe it or not, I'm very masculine in my way of being. I'm fucking prolific. I go for it. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. My head, I'm very really air sign. I'm air in earth, and I'm just like, rooted in the earth, and I'm just getting shit done. And then somebody's like, do you want to relax? Like, do you want to just chill out? Do you just want to shut up? And I'm like, oh yes, I can have a bath, or I can do this. And so I've had to learn to slow down. And so my pain and my womb was basically telling me, slow the F down. I'm processing all this shit. While I was distracting myself and being prolific and being social and just living my best life, really similar to you, love to travel, I was very much in my head. And my body was going, don't forget me. I was so detached from my root that my root was literally screaming and bleeding and shedding and going, look at me, listen to me. And I can honestly say 90% of the women I've worked with endometriosis are detached from their womb. They've maybe experienced or are carrying generational trauma. It's a big thing, sexual abuse, whether directly or in your family, massive link to endometriosis. It's almost always that you're processing some big, big trauma that hasn't been spoken about, that hasn't been articulated and expressed. It's there just kind of going, look at me. So that's for me, like a big, big key thing for me was actually recognizing the abuse I experienced as a child, the domestic violence and abuse that was really prevalent in my family, in my mother line, that nobody talked about. Nobody was like, we all knew it was happening, and everybody just didn't say anything. And even my own abuse, it was kind of sort of brushed off. Yeah, we won't talk about that. Let's just forget it happened. Well, my body didn't forget, and the body never forgets. And so when I initiated as a woman, and when my yoni started to wake up, and when my clitoris started to feel pleasure, there was all this shame attached, and I didn't want to feel it, And so healing the symptoms that might be painted as endometriosis was actually just listening and feeling love for my womb, and going, what are you trying to tell me? Like a little girl, what's going on? Why are you crying? Why are you in so much pain? And slowly but surely, just even that holding and listening and that compassion really started to remove that pain. And then when I discovered fucking sacred rage and yelling and drumming and like fucking standing on a fire and just all that kind of like, that's when I was like, oh, that's what my womb wanted. She just wanted to kind of fucking let go and go wild.
Amazing.
So yeah, I mean, there's so much for me personally. I mean, the yoni steaming is like number one. If somebody was like, what's the one thing that you did to heal your womb, it was the steaming, because it activates the pleasure, it softens all the muscles of your pelvis, it awakens all the nerve endings of your clitoris, it lets everything feel, but also energetically, physically, it's helping to shed all those growths. And it's so just to say as well, endometriosis, might want to edit that, I forgot to say, endometriosis is a condition still really misunderstood, but it's essentially when cells that are similar to your uterine lining grow elsewhere. So there's endometriosis and adenomyosis, I think I pronounced that right. And it's essentially where your uterine lining is essentially kind of growing elsewhere in your womb, and when you bleed each month, that lining is bleeding as well. So it could be growing on your colon, it can even be growing up kind of into your lung area, and it bleeds internally every time you bleed. So you're literally internally bleeding and shedding, and it causes so much inflammation. But like I say, I've studied all of the pathologies of the womb, and almost all of them are linked to generational trauma, to sexual abuse, to not feeling and expressing your deepest emotions. And it really all reflects on how we've treated the feminine collectively. So, yeah. Mm.
Oh, it's so powerful to hear you say these things. And I know that so many people listening will also feel like deeply relieved because they've probably been to the doctors about their painful periods 1,000 times and got nowhere. And what you just said is going to make such a huge difference in someone's life. And I'm so grateful that you have studied and worked with so many women to have this embodied lived experience of what the truth actually is. And yeah, I see it in my line of work with my clients with sexual shame
Yeah.
that manifests as candida and UTIs and yeah, different types of cysts on the labia. And I'm like, it's almost always down to shame. And it's like, if we love our pussies, if we love our wombs, if we learn how to be compassionate, to listen, and to love ourselves forward,
Yeah.
then things medically drastically change. And I can also massively testify to steaming. That's actually what I said to the doctor when I was screaming and getting kicked out of the doctor's office. As I said, that the biggest thing that's ever helped me has not come from this, has not come from this room, has not come from your profession. It has been steaming my vagina. And it was like a mic drop moment where I was like, fuck you guys, I'm out.
Until you're prescribing steaming herbs, you can have all.
Exactly. Exactly. And if
Yeah.
anyone's curious about steaming, please go over to Trudy's information and contacts, which we'll give you all at the end of the episode, because it's an insane practice. And I get
It will
asked about
change
it
your
all the
life.
time. Yeah, it will change your life. And
Yeah.
yeah, now I live in a beautiful house with two women, and one of them is also a womb witch. And so every month we do like, or we try to do little steams together in my room, and we're like sitting over the bowls of herbs and steaming together and like pulling cards, and we have like a little kind of get together with
Totally.
friends to do it, so you don't also
It's
have to
our
do it
norm.
alone.
No,
Yeah, it's the norm.
100%. I'd
Steam
love to
your
just,
vagina.
yeah, totally. I'd love to say something also just on the deeper witch practices, because you mentioned the kind of growths and cysts and things that happen on the lower end of the womb and kind of in the vagina, and the cervix is a really key. And I mentioned obviously that the womb has 8 gates, and they have their own kind of portals of energy. And I work very shamanically with calling in the spirits of those spaces. And so if you're already kind of listening and you're like, babe, I steam every week and I do this, and I'm in. Where's the witchy dirtiness? Like, where does it go deep? It's really in that shamanic, like really truly trusting and knowing that each portal of the womb has its animal spirits, it has its goddess deity energies, it has its invocations, and there'll be light language that exists just in your cervix, and your cervix being, as an example, the gateway to your womb, and it's the crone energy, it's your inner wise woman, it's the hag, it's the dark goddess, and it's the space that's literally like you have the key to open that gateway into your womb, and to be able to do vocal toning there, and to say incantations, and to literally conjure that serpent energy there, opens up a whole nother layer of your cervix. And so within that, knowing that that's not only about your power and your boundaries and your queen energy, but it's also about those fucking amazing orgasms that you can have in your cervix, and that kind of like that vibration of like that opening where you feel like you're cracking open and this whole portal is like birthing through you. There's so much magic there, and you can have an altar to that part of your womb. So I'll often have a womb altar, just a general womb altar, but you can go, do you know what? I have HPV, or I'm really trying to heal my cervix, or I've got a prolapse, or something's going on there in my cervix. I'm going to create an altar for my cervix. I'm going to put Kali there. I'm going to put Hecate there. I'm going to have all these black candles, and I'm going to worship my cervix every morning, and call in those spirits and really work with the energy. And your body will feel that, your cervix feels that, and there's certain chants you can do for your cervix, and you'll feel that vibration as you're using that sound for your throat. You'll feel that deep within you, and that's just so magic.
Oh my goddess. I am getting so excited about this. I need to come to an offering soon and really get involved in this work of yours again.
Mm.
And yeah, actually, one of my next questions was, can we have witchy holistic ways to care for and connect with our womb? So that's one of
Yeah.
them, but can we have some more juicy practices that come to mind?
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, going backwards from kind of like the physical, just basic self-care things would be working with plants. Working with the vibration of
Mm.
plants is pivotal to my work. So not just the steams and the herbs, internally, as in your yoni, internally in your mouth, internally in any hole that you can put herbs, put them. Within reason. The vibration of plants is really, really powerful, and picking your own plants and getting to know the plants and actually going out with your womb oracle and leading with your womb. I need this is what I'm going through, this is what my body needs. The plants will speak to you, and they'll choose you. So definitely that, and oils, really anointing and massaging your womb, bringing, like, really calling in the spirits of those plants into your womb is going to be really sensual and loving and nourishing. um I swear by altars and working with deities and goddesses particularly, they are there, they're so present. And the more you work with them, even if it's new to you, the more you work with them, the more new energies will come in as well. And you've got this like big kind of posse of sisterhoods of like the divine. We are like, Caradwyn, sort this out. Kuan Yin, I need you for this. And it's just like, yeah, you just feel like you're like in your power, you're not alone ever. So really calling those energies in. But I mean, as a cyclical witch particularly, I devote and bow myself down to the seasons and the lunar cycles, knowing that that's just the truth. That's the truth of my being. And I really don't just take that so lightly, as in, I know it can be quite common these days for people to almost take for granted the kind of like, it's the full moon, let's release, it's the new moon, let's do this. And for a while, I kind of got turned off with like, yeah, the moon cycles, it felt like really standard. But really, the more you observe it in yourself and see just how, especially when you're foraging, how the trees change and how plants change, and the energy, in the winter going into the roots of the plant. And then as we get into spring and summer, energy and the vitality of the water literally rises into the flowers. And that's what's happening within us. So there's a lot of magic that's already happening just around us that we don't need to do anything. And that's really important. If we're saying like, what can we do to be more witchy or woomy? What can we do? And actually, how about if we're not having to do anything? How about if we actually are just being in what we already are and noticing it? So much
Mm.
magic isn't actually about doing stuff. Like, we don't have to do incantations and spells and rituals. The magic is in us, what's already occurring, and all we need to do is kind of be watching and feeling it happening and like falling into that ebb and flow. That's where the magic happens.
Trudy, you haven't got a podcast yet. And I think that this is the day, this is the day where I ask you to make a podcast because
I mean, just for everyone listening as well, just a reminder that we actually had this booked in nearer to my bleed, and at the time I thought, yeah, like I'll just be so deep and wise and just deep in my body. And I was like, man, I'm a Gemini, I need to speak my words, I need to be like blah, 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 and let it come. So thank you for switching around, because I honor you are dealing with this energy receiving this energy while you're bleeding, and I'm like, ovulation. But that's it. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, my Mercury is in Gemini and my Venus is in Gemini. So I'm very familiar with the Gemini energy, with using my words. And I've also just had a month in Spain, which was very chill. So I feel like I might be day 2 of
Nice.
my bleed, but I'm like, I'm okay. I'm like holding this space. Also, it's new moon today. And so there's a reason why we had to switch, because there's like the alignment is crazy now.
Totally.
So yeah, thank you. Thanks
Totally.
for honoring your cycles, and permission to everyone to cancel your plans when you're bleeding.
Yes. Well, I'm actually really inspired. I don't know another womb witch here in Cornwall. In fact, in St Agnes, not far from us, Kate Shepherd Cohen, and I really was inspired by her that she was invited to do a TED talk about the menstrual cycle, and it just happened to land on her bleed. So she was just like, do you know what? Can we reschedule because I'm going to be bleeding and I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to do it. And they were like, yeah, okay. And it's like we forget that we can actually totally ask for our needs. And we can bring our bleed into it and say, sorry, I can't, I'm bleeding. And it's so much more acceptable now to do that. I can't have that meeting now, or actually, can we do that then because I'm going to be ovulating and I'll have way more energy then? The way that we make the world catch up with this is just asking and telling and demanding, if we need to, that the world is as cyclical as we already are.
Fuck yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Fuck yes. And even when it triggers people, like I went to a yoga class this morning and she came over and she said, I just want to check that you're okay with hands-on adjustment. And I really appreciated the consent. And it was an amazing class. And I don't go to yoga classes very often, despite being a yoga teacher. So it was really appreciated. And she said, yeah, do I mind being touched? And I said, I'd love that, but I'm bleeding. So just not around my womb, not around my, just being really tender with that space. And her eyes kind of widened, but she was also like, oh, yeah, absolutely. You deserve the rest. And the way that she anointed me with oils and touched me and stroked me during the class was so blissful and relaxing that I was like, I am so happy that I let her know that I'm bleeding, because I actually feel like now I'm getting special treatment.
Oh my God. That's like when you go to a restaurant and they're like, if it's your birthday, you get a free cocktail. So everyone's like, it's my birthday. So now we'll be like, I'm bleeding, look after me.
Exactly. And then suddenly you're getting like free hot chocolate or something. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So we should be fucking proud of our
Let's
bleed.
start a movement.
Yeah.
What can I get for free on my bleed?
Okay, everyone, you've got your assignment. Out
Yeah.
you go. Let us know. Message me and Trudi what you get when you're bleeding.
Do it. That's like proper womb manifestation there as well, isn't it?
Exactly. Calling in the receiving.
Yeah.
So we're going to start to wrap up. I've got 2 really important questions. I wonder if we can do them like in a quick fire way, but in a juicy quick fire. So one of them is, let's clear up some false beliefs around the witch, because witch is a word that we've said a lot today. And yeah, I just want to know, who is she to you? Who is the witch to you? And yeah, how can we reclaim this word in society and also take that back as a beautiful, good, delicious way of being?
So I understand that witch is a loaded word and it might not feel right for everybody. But for me, witch literally means wise woman, she who knows, she who is. And so if we break witch down as being just a woman who is in her power, that is sovereign, that knows her shit and knows when she doesn't know her shit and is okay with that. And the connotations for me particularly, I align to the lineage of being a witch as somebody who's connected to the seasons, to the cycles, to nature, not connected to, but just completely merged with. So it's not just like I'm going to use plants as a separate tool for me, but knowing that that's an extension of me, that's part of me, and that's how it works. So yeah, finding what the history of the witches are is really important, because that will give you an idea of why the word is so loaded. Knowing that there's a period of about 25,000 years where that word was fucking respected and powerful. The priestesses, the witches, the seers, the oracles, 25,000 years we worship the goddess. There was only about a 400-year period where we completely got fucked over. They did a good old job. And so actually underneath that word, whether you choose to align with that word, is a deep, deep history of the feminine being fully in her power, you know. And so it's just a remembering. It's just a remembering. And by using the word, and I can put my hand up and say, every now and then I get triggered and I get a bit shaky using the word, because it's a statement. To say that you're a witch is a statement, and it takes a lot of like balls or ovaries to say that. But yeah, just try it on and find the rituals and find the part of the history that really awakens you, because there'll be a part of it that you remember of a past life, or a part of you that, you know, you've maybe oppressed. Yeah.
Fuck yes, what a delicious answer. Thank you. And hell yes to 25,000 years over 400.
Yeah.
Like, I had no idea of those statistics. That is beautiful. Wow, powerful. Okay. And the final question I'm going to bring you today is kind of a big one, though. 3 golden lessons that your womb has taught you.
Ooh. Let's take a second and just ask her. Okay. So the first one is a really obvious one, but it's to use my voice more. Because use my voice from my truth. So I always joke that as a Gemini, I talk a lot, but when I actually have to speak my truth, I get kind of stunted. My Chiron's in Gemini, so it's kind of like a wounding for me as well. But my womb has taught me that I need to sing, I need to shout, I need to scream, I need to speak my truth. And my bleeds are always healthier, and my body is always healthier when I do that. So that's number one. Number two has been to celebrate myself and my divinity and all that I am. Not try to compare myself, not try to be more, not try to strive to be different. The more I'm just as I am and in this moment, the more I feel just at home and in pleasure and in just complete true vibration of myself. So just not striving and not moving forward, just being. And for me personally, my lesson and my journey that I'm still on is in trust. When I trust, my womb and my pelvis open and I'm like this big kind of juicy wobbly home. I'm like a big bosom of like love. When I don't trust, I close up like a clam. Physically, my buttocks get tight, my cervix get tight. And so my whole journey is to trust so that I can blossom and open. So that's my journey with the womb.
Oh, thank you so much. Trudy just dropped into full-on oracle mode as well, by the way, for anyone that's not witnessing this video. It's like, yeah, a true transmission. Thank you so much for bringing your beautiful witchy priestess voice, your truth, your oracle of wisdom. Where can we find you on the internet? Where would you like to send people to go and find you and your work and your beautiful offerings?
Yeah. So, well, firstly, thank you. Thank you so much for holding this space and just all the amazing stuff that you're doing. And just, yeah, you blow me away. And I'm always so inspired. And just as you've just said, I really need to come to more of your stuff. I need to receive more of you. And yeah, so thank you. And for those that want to find me or follow me, my offering is Wild Samsara. And you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, website, which is just about to be having a little facelift. And I've got a shop so you can get your yoni steams. I do lots of online offerings as well, but I do have a yurt down here in Cornwall, a literal womb in the woods. So if you ever can make it down this way, then yeah, come and see me.
Thank you so much. And I'll put all of the links in the show notes. I can't recommend Trudi's space enough. I know a lot of my clients come to you as well for womb Reiki, womb massage, and they have an incredible experience always. So thank you so much for your wisdom, your work, and for shifting the whole fucking collective on a massive
Yeah.
scale.
And thank you all for doing it as well, because you're doing it in all your magical ways, even unknowingly. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks for being brave enough to tune in today, everyone. And yeah, love you. And thank you, Trudy. Love you too.
Thank you. Love you.